Okay, so a lot of people have been, well, talking about the new God of War Valhalla DLC. It's free, and that's so awesome. That's cool. I'm so happy that, the God of War community is getting a free DLC. Somebody asked me if I had played it yet, and I had to confess to them that I have not. I have not, unfortunately, because I can't even bring myself to finish the God of War remake, the 2018 game. I can't do it. And I try to be someone who's very thick-skinned, but the last time I tried to play, I got all the way to this mission where the ghost was talking about how his family was devotees of the god Thor, or Thunar, as he's called sometimes. And the father died, the mother erects a giant statue, and during the funeral feast, Thor comes to this funeral feast to admire the statue. He becomes very belligerent and nasty. And the mother asks him to leave, and Thor kills her in a drunken rage, as it says. I'm pretty sure that's the gist of it. And I'm like, that's absolute horseshit. I can't do this. You want me to tear down a statue of Thor, even in a video game, all right? Tear down a statue of Thor, uh, over a story that is very not in keeping with what we do know about Papa Thuner, which is what he's often called. Not the Papa part. I say Papa, but Thuner, Donner, Tor, or Thor, as some people call him now. I am a devotee of his. I am also a devotee of Fricka, or Frigg, and Freya. I don't mind it nearly as much that they combine these two goddesses. I understand they're trying to keep a tight story here, so to combine Freya and Frigg does make sense. A lot of people claim the two are the same goddess. I say they're not. I've done so much research, and in because I want to know. I want to know what my Celto-Germanic ancestors believed before Christianity. So I, I'm a nerd. I did a lot of digging, and the more you discover about the goddess Frigga, because that's also her name. It's not just Frigg, it's also Frigga. We notice that she seems to have a much older cult than Freya does. Her cult seems to have sprung out of Sweden. She was deified after her death, as the story goes, and she was mediator between the living and her brother, the dead king Frey. And when she was deified as a goddess of magic, right? Being able to take raw passion and craft it into something supernatural, perhaps, is how she got equated into a goddess of love, because passion and love sometimes go hand in hand. So I don't think these two are the same. If Frigg has anything in common with a goddess out there, I would say that her and Hulda, another very prominent goddess in Northern European traditions, her and Hulda would probably be more likely to be one and the same, but not so much Freya. Just because their names kind of sound alike, it doesn't really mean much to me. So that again, that doesn't really bother me all that much. It really doesn't. It's fine. But just like that thing with the ghost and Thor, or Thuner, that whole thing about how he just killed his mom, and that is not the fatherly figure that we see in folklore and traditions. Yes, Thuner does have a temper, but he's always seen as a champion of the people. Uh, like in Sweden, when you'd hear thunder, it was a very common term to say the good father drives. And they're referring to Thunar, or Thor, when they say that, because, of course, Thor rides across the sky in a cart pulled by two he-goats. And I guess thunder does kind of sound like a cart rumbling down a cobblestone road. Sure, I could see why they would say that, referring to him as a father. And when fishermen would go out at sea, they, like, even as late as the 1800s in Scotland, they would bring little totems that was the thunder god himself. And they'd take that totem out and they would pray to it while they were out fishing, that they could come home to their families and that nothing bad would happen to them. And I would assume that that worked more times than not, right? Or else they'd stop bringing those totems with them, right? So, I mean, Thunor is quite the rock star of Northern European traditions. And it's very hard as a devotee to hear a story like that and know it's absolute rubbish. It reminds me so much of the ridiculous Christian propaganda that you read about in works like Teutonic mythology, where missionaries would come into Northern Europe and they would try two tactics. They would either go to a village, find out who the gods and spirits are that people pray to, and they would do two things. They'd either try to convince you these gods are not real, or they would try to convince you that they're evil and they're not all powerful. Right? One or the other. So the story with Thor just, I don't know, it kind of sends shivers down my spine. I'm like, that sounds like something a missionary would tell you, right? Like, you pray to this god? Well, I know, I just met a man 2 towns over that swears your god killed his wife. Would you really want to pray to a god like that? You know what I mean? That stuff like that. So I try to have thick skin, and I don't really, I don't have anything against God of War. I have a great respect for what they did with that franchise. I think it's really neat, but there's just some things that are just, it's hard to keep going when, I don't know, I don't want to use the word offended, but that's the only way to truly describe how I feel. Like, I'm a devotee of Thunir, and hearing some stupid story like that, and the only reason they wrote the story like that is because they're trying to get Kratos and Atreus to tear down the statue or something. Like, it's petty, I get it, but it's still a bit, I feel like it's insulting. It is insulting to my god. So, and he's one of many, right? There's Woden, which I did see clips from Ragnarok. I feel like that's another game that I would struggle to play because there's no way I'm having that thing with Heimdall. Heimdall is another fatherly like figure in Northern traditions, and I don't like the way he's depicted in that game either. I don't mind Thor so much. He looks good. He definitely looks like a strong man, right? Which is pretty close akin to what the way I think that he gets described in the ancient traditions. Odin is he comes across like he does come across a bit like a wise guy kind of character. It's kind of silly, really. But yeah, it's just the franchise. I have great respect for it, but I cannot bring myself to play it. And I try to have thick skin because, I do see like Northern traditions getting depicted in TV shows and movies and video games. And most of the time, I just roll my eyes. I'm like, whatever. It's just a game, or it's just a movie. It's just for entertainment. But I don't know. There's something about God of War that just bothers me. So I have quietly ducked out of that that gameplay, right? I just quietly ducked out of it. But I don't know. I guess it's just best to explain, like, in case anybody else asks me about the God of War Valhalla DLC. We'll just go ahead and rip that band-aid off right now. There ain't gonna be no Valhalla gameplay because I don't play God of War. If you love God of War, that's awesome. I enjoyed the combat in that game. It was a lot of fun. But I just can't get past those. I just can't get past that story. And I know that that story about Thunir or Thor is there's probably going to be one of many moments that are just going to make me stop playing it. Even if I can get past that moment, there's going to be another one to stop me. It's like this. I can't get into this. It's really hard to be immersed in a world that's, I don't know. They're not meaning to. It's not meaning to, but I feel like it's somewhat disrespectful to uh, the divine spirits that enrich my life. We'll just say that. They enrich my life in meaningful ways. And I can't bring myself to play it. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say about yeah, God of War, the God of War thing. And that kind of reminds me, like when I was younger, I played the original God of War games. I did, and I loved them. I do. Don't get me wrong. But looking back, like I'm older now and I have what you would consider like spiritual convictions and morality in a way that I didn't have when I was younger. So I can't help but look at like Greco-Roman pagans, and I can't help but feel like maybe some of them might feel the same way about the old God of War games that I feel about the new ones. It's not that we hate them or anything. It's just it's hard to get immersed in a world that's just being downright. It's not respectful to the lore in a way that resonates with us. And again, I don't think I've ever attempted to play a game that really bothered me like that. I mean, I've seen Norse motifs and themes presented in other games. Never really bothered me. Yeah, I can usually overlook it, but I don't know. There's something about God of War I can't put my finger on. And again, this is not a dig at the game. I think the game is brilliant, but I cannot play it. I can't. So anyway, if you're loving God of War, or you don't like God of War, or you do but you don't, hey, I think we all have our opinions, but it's really hard for me to have an opinion about the game because I can't sit down and play it. I really can't. So I'm not going to sit here and say it's a garbage game. I can't play it. So I have respect for it though. A lot of people love the game. Anyway, that's all I got for now. You all have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening, and I will catch you on the flip side.